Hello and welcome to another episode of French Ear Trumpet. I'm Andy from AJ in France, and we have Colin from French Countryside Live. And once a week, we get together and just talk about anything we want to talk about. Sometimes we have guests, like last week. Sometimes we just talk between ourselves. It may be French related, it may be not. In fact, last week wasn't. In fact, last week we did conspiracy theories with Rob from Escape to France Charente. Link in the description, obviously. Really enjoyed that. It was really good fun, actually. I really enjoy having someone else on the chat as well that we can talk to. So we've had quite a few people on here.
That's been really interesting. Yeah,
and every single one we've done with someone else has been brilliant because you get someone else's take on things.
Is that because we're a bit boring?
I don't think so. I think if we were boring, we'd just sit here and wouldn't be able to talk to each other for an hour. And the time goes so quick, so I don't think it's that. Nice. But it's really nice, like getting different perspectives. So, like when we had my brother on.
That was really interesting. It's fascinating.
Yeah, some gems of information there. If you wanted to hire an artisan or anybody in France, really. That was really good. And then we had Faye, that was amazing. What she didn't know.
She was a mine of information, wasn't
she? Unbelievable.
Thanks, Faye. Appreciate that.
Yeah, and Graham, when we had Graham on as well, that was so funny. Yeah. It was like three of us just down the pub talking about stuff. That was brilliant.
Actually, someone said about that. I've got the comments up. I don't want to waste time trying to find it, but they said it's just like being down the pub and there's a Fruit Loop at the bar who spouts off about about their various theories, and then once you get bored with it, you walk away.
Brilliant. Yeah. So anyway, welcome to another episode. What we're gonna do this week then.
So this week's topic is French as a language, where it comes from, how to learn it, what we found out about it, and just learning and speaking French as a topic. So, let me just there we go. Ooh, hang on.
Hello.
What was that? Can't wait. All right. Talk amongst yourselves. So French as a language. So let me just I'll just research this a little bit, and I found a really good article that explains the origins of French. So I'm just going to read this directly. So the origins of the French language are intertwined with the history of France itself. French is a mix of different languages. Latin, brought to the region by the Roman Empire, laid the foundation for the language. However, Gaulish, the native language spoken by the Gauls who inhabited France, continued to have a significant influence, especially in rural areas. The Latin used in France borrowed many Gaulish words, such as mouton, sheep. This is a difficult one. Craindre, to fear. Changer, to change. And manteau, coat. The Gauls are also thought to be responsible for the French's odd way of counting, 4 20s for 80.
Yeah.
Another crucial influence on French was the Frankish language. As the Roman Empire declined, Gaul was repeatedly invaded by Germanic tribes from the east, including the Franks. In fact, Frankish was the language of the French court and nobility for several centuries, resulting in the assimilation of many Frankish words. Words such as garçon, boy, bateau, boat, robe, or robe, dress, and marcher, to walk, are borrowed from Frankish, and French words ending in ard and ange, like canard, duck, and mélange, mixture, are mostly of Frankish Germanic origin. The Franks also had a big influence on pronunciation, which is one reason why today modern French seems so distinct from other Romance languages like Italian and Spanish. So I thought that summed up the history of the French language quite succinctly.
Yeah, it's interesting because trying to speak it every day is really difficult. And it's like you tend to forget when you say French, it's like just saying English, but English you could include in that Cornish and obviously Welsh. I know Welsh isn't English, but when someone says, "Oh, you speak English," they would include that as well. But it's a completely different language, a completely different way of saying things, and that exists in France as well. So like you
tend to
have.
forget that language evolves, and even now, in probably the past 10 years, it's evolved. Certainly in English, it's evolved. New words and phrases come into use, and ones that aren't used so much, they tend to die out. But over history, I think language appropriation probably comes about as a result of war. So to the victor go the spoils and all that. And when the Normans invaded the south coast and into southern Britain, which is one of the reasons why there's so much similarity between modern English and French.
I forget who said it, but someone said English is just French, but just not very well pronounced.
Pronounced badly, yeah.
Pronounced badly, yeah. And because there's any word in English that ends in ION, it's French.
Yeah.
So construction, instruction, I mean, there's tons of them.
Yeah.
They come from the French language, and in fact, in the UK, they spoke French. That was the main language for.
It was the language of the Royal Court, wasn't it?
Yeah, for
years.
Many. Oh yeah, I don't know how many years, but for a long time. So it's very, very strange to see that. But the same is true, like you said, like for example, the east of France. My neighbor, he's from Alsace, and in that region, it's heavily or was heavily influenced by Germans because the territory has been German, then it's been French, then German, and then French. So it was annexed during the wars and that kind of stuff. So there's a massive German influence, but not only in language, but in food as well. So if you go to the Alsace region, you'll get choucroute, sauerkraut. Yeah, as a dish, and that was obviously borrowed from the German cuisine. Very popular there, and a lot of people in the East actually still speak German, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I used to drive this guy, Peter. Is it Peter? I won't say his name, but really interesting fella. He was a Swiss German, and he could speak about 7 languages, I think, and just a fascinating fella. And he'd be in the back of the car speaking German on a phone call, and then he'd take another call in French, then another one in English, and just amazing.
Yeah, some people have that ability to pick up languages. It's not me.
There's a word for that.
What's that?
There's a word for that. Polyglot. Isn't it?
Ah, yes.
Polyglot.
That's right. But I find it very, very difficult to learn any language, really.
I have enough trouble with English, to be honest.
Yeah, my memory is so bad, I forget it. So I really struggle to learn. There are people, if you speak to them and say, oh, the word for that in English, if they're not from England, then they say the word for that in English is such and such. they'll immediately assimilate that word and they'll use it again. I'll hear the word, I'll repeat it, say it out loud.
Yeah.
Exactly that. And they'll tell me again. It's like, it's like I never learn.
Yeah. Actually, perfect example of that. So we had the jar of coins, jar-o coins, that like all the shrapnel that you got in your pocket goes into the jar. And at Yper, they've got one of these coin change things,
Yeah.
You can put your coins in and you get a voucher. So did that, 126 euros.
Wow.
I know.
Is that your swear jar?
No, it's Jane's one. Jane's got a much bigger one than I. So so I got my little printout that was printed out, with the barcode and all the rest of it. And I wanted to know whether I could just cash it or whether I had to spend it in the shop. So I went to customer service and in my best French asked it. And I got to the point where I needed the word shopping and just nothing there. So I tried saying shopping in a French accent. That didn't work.
No.
So the woman just looked at me like I had two heads.
Yeah.
So she just gave up, and so did I.
Yeah. So let's think of right. I've got a situation.
Yep.
That high pressure situation when I first moved here, and not knowing any French at all whatsoever, it was a complete nightmare, and it felt like the world was falling in on me. And I'm not that kind of person. I'm normally quite laid back, but there's something about not knowing the language. Minor things become massive problems, and it just exacerbates the situation. For I don't know why, because the act or whatever has happened is the same, but you just struggle to communicate, so it takes longer. But in modern day and age, you've got Google Translate and all that. Anyway,
I was just about to say to you, right, sorry, just to interrupt you for a moment
yeah,
there. I was just about to say to you, before you had Google Translate on your phone, like people had a French, English, French dictionary in their pocket. It's just unbelievable. I don't know how people did it.
Well, it's funny because, not funny, but it's interesting. We'll get into this later on. Obviously, I work for a French company, and everyone there is French, and there's only one guy who speaks a bit of English, but it's not as good as my French. That gives you an idea of the level it is. No, we never use, to talk between us, we never use Google Translate because the length of time it takes to pull out your phone, put in the translation and show it, it's just not possible. Yep. So you can't get by on a social situation with Google Translate.
No.
And I wouldn't even try, because it doesn't matter if you don't, and this is what I found, is it doesn't matter if you don't understand it all. You can just when I first started speaking, I tried to understand everything, and it's just not possible. So I just start by picking out the words that you do understand and try and apply it to the situation. But you'll never get to the level, or it takes so long to get to the level where you can understand three people talking at the same time in different accents.
It doesn't bear thinking about.
So you've got to say you can only do what you can do, and don't.
They might as well be talking French.
I remember when I went to buy, it was Christmas, and I was going to buy my dad a bottle of whiskey. So I went to the local supermarket, and I picked the whiskey that I wanted, and I walked up to the checkout. Just before the checkout, it slipped out of my hand.
Oh, no.
And hit the floor and smashed completely. So the stress of that situation is, when you look at it from like a normal point of view, be like, well, look, sorry, I smashed a bottle of whiskey. That's it. But if you don't speak the language, immediately that hits the floor, someone will be with you within 10 seconds, and they're going to be speaking French.
Yep.
So not only have you got the stress of the actual situation that you've just completely totaled a bottle of whiskey, and it's all over the floor, you've got to decide then, do I pay my attention to the bottle of whiskey on the floor or what people are saying to me? Because you're probably going to get more than one person talking to you at the same time. And that was, from a language point of view, was incredibly stressful. But when you actually take an overview look of it, it was just a bottle of whiskey on the floor, and I'd have paid for it anyway.
Yeah.
But they come up to you and they're talking so fast, and looking back on it, what they were actually saying is, are you okay? Don't worry about it. We'll get this cleaned up. Just go and get another one.
Yeah.
I didn't understand any of that.
No.
And in the stress of the situation, you could mistake that for them being angry or annoyed at you.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So it's really, really difficult.
Well, I mean, what I tend to find, and I think most people do it as well, other than something like that, where something happens completely unexpected, most situations that you put yourself in, you've got a fair idea what's coming. So you've got a script in your head. So as you're approaching that situation, that shop, that office, that whatever, you think, well, I'm going to say this, then they're going to reply with this, then I'm going to reply with that.
Yeah.
And then this is how the conversation's going to go. And a lot of the time, even though they might not be using words that you recognize, because of the context, you only really need one or two words in each sentence to be able to understand what's going on. But
yeah, true.
If they go off script and they want to know about something that you've not thought about, then I'm flailing around.
Oh,
I'm flapping.
And I think I've said this before, the social situations are so much harder than, shall we say, standard situations. So like your restaurants, parking.
Because of the potential social faux pas, is it? Faux pas.
Well, yes and no. It's not so much that. It's they don't use the same words that we get taught. And I did mention this briefly. I think it was last week.
Yeah.
They don't use the same words that you're taught, like we don't. In English.
Yeah.
Yeah, like how much is that? That's 20 quid. Well, they don't get taught 20 quid in French, when they're learning English. No. It's £20. So they'll be like, what's quid? And squid. You eat squid, don't you? And it's like the reverse of that. Yeah. So they don't really say euros. They say bal. So 20 bal, 20 euros.
Bala.
Bal.
Bala.
B-A-L.
Never knew that.
They say it like that. Yeah. They don't say euros. So I'm thinking, why are they talking about balls? There's a lot of balls flying around here, and there's not that time in the morning. So anyway, so there's all sorts of socially and slang words now. Where I live in Brittany as well, the local dialect has some patois in it.
Yeah, of course.
Sorry, the accent and so it's a cross between the two. So it's interesting because I was talking to the boss's son, who speaks quite clearly, and I find it quite easy to. And he modifies what he says when he speaks to me. He
That's
knows.
quite smart, isn't it? That's sounds like a smart kid.
He's very smart, and he adapts the way he speaks to me, and he's in effect he is my boss anyway. He's only 27 and he's super smart, and he says, when I said, look, I'm really struggling to understand this other guy who works on the team, and he goes, so do I.
You know, having a Glaswegian in your team, isn't it?
Or someone from Newcastle, or someone who speaks in Cockney.
That's what you mean.
You know, it's like having Danny Dyer on your team.
It's like having Jane on your team, isn't it?
But fortunately, they're all so nice about it. If it's a one-on-one, they modify the way they speak to you.
Right.
So they, like, if someone was speaking to us in English, you wouldn't use complicated slang words.
No.
They'd slow down. You'd slow it down and spell it out for them.
Yeah.
And something that's quite interesting as well is, I've told them to say my name before anything that's to do with me.
Right.
So I'll give you an example. We're sat around the table every morning. We all have coffee at 8 o'clock. Sat around the table and you all decide who's doing what for the day. And I start off when I understand, and then I lose it about halfway through because there's two conversations going on each side of the table. Someone's on a whiteboard drawing stuff. I've got no idea what's going on. And then they'll turn around and stop and no one's talking. And then obviously I'm supposed to say something, but I can't understand up until that point what's going on. So I said to them, look, if you want my input, just say my name and I'll ask a question in a simple way. And they've said, okay, we'll do that. And ever since that, it's been really good because they'll stop, they'll say my name and they'll ask, because they're all really nice. And they'll say, what do you think about this? Or can we do it like that? So, yeah, it's really complicated. I'll tell you what is complicated. I don't know if you've worked it out yet, the tu and vous situation. How do you find that?
Yeah, I don't really get myself into the sort of situations where I need to. The only situations where I really had to think about it is with the neighbours. So we've got a lovely couple opposite. I think you met them actually. Jean-Pierre and Marilyn. And Marilyn started using the tu. And so once she said that, I asked her, would it be okay if I use tu? And she said, of course. So that's the only real time that's actually come up. No, there was another time. There was some kids. I think we was in the Bracon, and the kids were playing with something, and they started talking to me, so I started talking to them, and I used the tu with them. But that's the only scenarios that I've been in.
It's harder than I actually thought it would be for me.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. My brother is fluent in French, and he has his own business. And I remember working with him one day. We went to a job, and the customer there, my brother is talking to him, no problems, and he's using the vous because he's the artisan and he's the client, etc. And then he accidentally used tu, just out of habit. And he apologized to the client and said, I'm sorry for using tu. And the client said, it's okay, don't worry. It happens sometimes.
Yeah, just don't do it again.
Yes, but that's it. It doesn't mean you can now continue to use tu. It just means it happens every now and then, but we're still going to continue using vous because we're in that kind of relationship.
Yeah, I think we talked about this in a previous French ear trumpet. And we came to the conclusion that French society is a very rules-based
That's right.
society, and there are rules involved in social interaction.
Yeah.
And you just got to learn them. You just got to learn it. And if you do, once again, if you do make a faux pas, then you just recognise it and move on.
I think, did we mention this, the bonjour thing? So
what, with the shop or the bonjour, or
when you meet people, it's a definite. You've got to say bonjour. Go out of your way to make sure you do. And that can be quite strange because you don't know what to do. So it's not too bad between two blokes because you're going to shake hands and that's it. But between a man and a woman, very complicated. And I'll give you a little scenario that happened to me last week, actually. So I went again with the boss's son. We went to see a client, and there was an issue with we do solar panels and installation of inverters, batteries, and all that. Somebody had fitted a system. It's broken down, and we were going to go and see what was wrong with it. He was taking me because I happen to be well read up on that particular type of system. So we went to this lady's house. Everything was great. And the boss's son knows her very well, walked up and gave her a kiss on both cheeks to say hello. So what do you do in that situation? You're following up behind that, and you're going to have to say hello. What do you do?
I have no idea.
I've never been so. I've got it. I can do it now. I know what I'm doing now, but that kind of situation before would have completely flummoxed me.
Yeah.
Because what do I do? But I've just seen the boss do that. What do I do? And the woman stood there. You have to say bonjour and do something.
Yeah.
So it can between a man and a woman, it can be shake hands or a kiss on each cheek. Those are the two options, really. You're not going to do anything else other than that. But selecting the right option, if you're not getting any signals from the person you're approaching, in that situation, I would offer your hand as a handshake because that's acceptable. And if the other person says, "Oh no, that's okay," and gives you a kiss, then that's fine. But
I think that's probably safest, isn't it?
Yeah, the best way to approach that situation is just offer your hand as a hand. Say bonjour and offer your hand for a handshake, and then just see what happens.
Yeah, just be led by it.
The worst thing to do is say nothing.
Yeah.
Or don't make any kind of approach at all because they'll think you're rude.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was a comment that I read on. I think it might have been on my channel or French Tutor. I can't remember. Anyway, it was a comment that talked about this, and it said that when you go into a shop, you must say bonjour as you walk in.
I think we did that on one of our
videos. Was it?
Yeah.
And there's also that comedy scenario where you walk past someone and you'd say bonjour, and then 2 minutes later you're walking back the other way, and they're walking back the other way, and then there's a third time. You're not going to say bonjour, 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 but what you can say apparently is rebonjour.
Yeah.
That's rebonjour.
Something else I found about the French language, they have a bon for everything.
Yeah.
Bon continuation.
Okay.
So happy carrying on doing whatever it is you're doing.
Okay.
Bon appétit.
Bon courage.
Bon courage.
Bon chance.
They don't really. Well, I haven't heard that very much.
Yeah. Okay.
Because we would say good luck, but they would
maybe
say,
that's an English. What do you say?
Anglicized.
Anglicised? Anglication? No, that's not it.
Anglicised.
Anglicised, yeah. Like I say, I can't even speak English.
Yeah, so good luck. They don't tend to say that.
Courage, not really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Bon appetit. There's all sorts of stuff.
Bonbons. So we was talking earlier before we started recording. We was talking earlier about the work that you've been doing on a piece of machinery, and you told me that all the instructions are in French.
That's right.
And that's something that gives you an insight into French language every day, because even just putting a bit of like fish fingers in the oven, you've got to read the instructions. The temperature, chauffe, and it's every day is just it's an education, isn't it?
Absolutely. And what I've found is most of the stuff I deal with is in English.
Oh, right.
So, right, we put in massive solar farms. All the stuff that's supplied comes with English instructions and a French translation of the English instructions, and they use the French translations. But everything that's written on the machine, for example, input and output, it's not entree and sortie. It's all in English. It's AC and DC, not CA and CC.
Okay.
They would say. And so they have adapted to that. And it doesn't matter whether I say the English version of that technical thing or the French, they use them both, which is helpful for me. So technical stuff like that, it's mostly in English, which is I found quite interesting, really.
Yeah, brilliant. So tell me about your journey to learning French. What did you use? I know that you came here with schoolboy French. Je m'appelle Andy.
Well, pretty much that. So when I arrived, the intention was not for me, not really to stay. So that changed really quickly. So I had no chance to prepare.
Right.
And so I started out with just schoolboy French, but then that was in 2019 into 2020, and then COVID struck. So they had 2 years almost of not really being able to speak to anyone. So in about 2022 was about the first time, so it's only a couple of years ago, that I could get out and start doing it. But I tried to learn online and read books, but I'm not interested in it.
And that is difficult, isn't it?
The second I'm not interested in anything, I can't learn it. And if I'm being honest, I only need to speak French because I need to get on here. I don't need to speak French because I really want to speak French. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, kind of, yeah.
So I only remember and can do stuff if I'm interested in it and I want to do it. Everything else just goes in one ear and out the other. Yeah. Fortunately, like cooking, the amount of people have taught me how to cook, and I just still can't cook because I just do not want to do it, and I do not find it interesting. So it just leaves my brain. I've got other stuff to put in its place. The second someone says this is the value of this resistor that needs to go there, that's it. It's locked in because I'm interested in that. But I know I need to learn French. So I've tried online and I just find it mind-numbingly boring. I've tried audiobooks, tried reading, like textbooks. And I just switch off. So the best way that I've found to learn is actually to read a novel or something that interests me, so I can learn the word for it. And if there's a word I don't know, I'll go and look it up. And it's the action of going and looking it up that imprints it on my brain. So that's the way I found it easier. And then using the words on a daily basis, because it's repetitive and I have to do it. I'm forced into doing it. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So for me,
Yeah.
2014 onwards, so I've had 10 years of wasting my life not learning French. So I've got no excuses whatsoever. So as most people know, I was a chauffeur for years, and I spent a lot of time sitting outside places waiting for people. And the cars that I drove, mostly BMW 7 Series, they had a DVD player in them. So I could sit and watch movies. So it was much more interesting to sit and watch a movie than it was to sit and learn French. Although, as time went by, I did make a bigger effort. And certainly during COVID, when we realised that, or when we came to the realisation that we was going to be able to move to France that much earlier, I really got my head down on it. Like yourself, I've used every medium that is available. I've got Rosetta Stone. Excuse me, Rosetta Stone, which is really good actually. Difficult because it's all in French. There's no English translation. Everything it works with picture and word. So you see a picture, the word comes to you.
Yeah, I've used that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, for example, every time I see a picture of someone swimming, the picture pops into my head of the Rosetta Stone picture.
Oh, okay.
And I know what the French word is. I think it's nage.
Yeah.
Anyway, and as you say, Audible books. The two that stand out is the Thomas Michel method. That was really good.
Michel Thomas.
Michel, you know what? I always get that mixed up. That was really, really good.
In fact, I'm going to say that's probably the only one that's stuck in my mind and I've got along with.
Yeah.
So if anyone gets the opportunity to use the Michel Thomas stuff,
it's really
I think
good.
I would start at even if you're intermediate to advanced, start at the basic because you miss so much stuff.
Yeah.
And an easy way of doing stuff. And I've used that probably more than anything else I've ever read or done, I think.
Yeah. There's little things that stick in your head from his tapes, like je vais. I'm going. So it's a je vais, I'm on my way.
Yeah. But it works. And I reckon.
Is that mnemonics? Is that
the what?
Is that mnemonics? Is that the word for that? Mnemonics?
Sounds complicated to me.
Anyway, as I say, I do struggle with English, so yeah. Sorry, go on. You were saying?
No, I'm just going to say I would probably, if you can buy that, download it. I actually got the actual bought DVDs, so for me that's was really helpful because you can put it in the car and listen.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and the other one is Paul Noble.
Is that the podcasts?
No, he's got a language course. He's got a basic and a intermediate course. Really, really good. Very, very similar to the Thomas Michel Thomas.
Michel Thomas.
Yeah. Yeah. Very similar. Very similar. But really, really good. I've got a bunch of books here. When we lived up in Normandy for a year, we had a French teacher, Stefan. He was brilliant. He was really, really good, and he encouraged me to get this book. So, a complete guide to conjugating 1,200 French verbs. It's a bit dry, but it's really good. This one's been really helpful, actually. Dictionary of French building terms.
I think you might have mentioned this before in one of your videos.
Yeah, so good. And that's English, French, and French English.
Do you know, it's funny because when I came over here, a good family friend, she's lovely. She's about 80 and she's lived here for a long time. And she said to me when I first came over, "You'll find that you speak bricolage first and French second."
That's funny.
And the English people will learn all the terms for DIY stuff first.
Yeah, because they have to, yeah. And the other one, what you were saying, so it's French for Dummies.
Yeah.
Normally the for Dummies books are really good, aren't they?
Yeah.
But I mean, you can tell. Look, there's the post-it note. Look,
That's as far as you got.
that's just what it is. It's so difficult and so dry. And yeah, it's really difficult. And also, what you were saying earlier about reading a novel, I've realised I've picked up the wrong Tintin book. I'm not sure I can show this one, but I'll just show the top of it. Hang on. Because hang on, there you go.
Oh no, you got no, you got.
Yeah, no, I can't show that.
I can only imagine.
But yeah, so Tintin books, all in French. And yeah, I'll sit down and go through them and translate them as I go. They're brilliant, really, really good, really helpful.
I think my tip on the book side of things was I started to find it easier when I read a book that was translated from English to French. So, for example, or not necessarily English. For example, Harlan Coben, if you like those kind of books.
Okay.
Very famous author. I think is he Icelandic? I'm going to say.
I have no idea.
Yeah, and
they're like thrillers, aren't they, normally?
Yeah. So that's my kind of book. So I find a book that was originally written in English or another language and translated to French, so that the translation is more standardized and they don't use French slang.
That's interesting.
So you're much easier for an English person to read in French because they don't use any of the French slang. So if you start there, then like I've read a few books, Indrids Allison, it's Icelandic ones again,
right?
Because they're quite easy to find at Super, and yeah, I find them super easy because they're already pre-translated into a form of French that we would recognise. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no. So the thing that I've found, certainly since living in Charente, I don't know whether it's because there's more English people here, so people are used to.
I was going to say you bumped into a French person the other day.
Yeah. Bonjour. I'm Colin. What I found is I'm not as nervous as I used to be about starting speaking in French to a French person. Once again, it comes back to the whole script thing. You know, I've got an idea what's going to be expected of me, and I used to get really nervous about it and think, oh my God, you know, what's going to happen? And it turns out nothing happens.
Exactly, and there's nothing better to illustrate that than being thrown in the deep end.
Yeah.
So I was probably my French was not too much better than yours, I don't think, when I started the job. And the first thing is his boss's son again rings me up on the phone this time. So as soon as you're on the phone,
it's twice as difficult, isn't it? Actually, just to interrupt you again, I remember Stefan, our French teacher, saying that, and I can't remember the exact percentages, but this is just a rough idea. He said that any communication, any exchange of ideas, and it was like 70% context, 25% body language, and you know, and it came down to like 2% words.
Yep, pretty much.
So, well, you know, once you're on the phone, you're down to your 2%, aren't you?
Pretty much. So, yeah, talking on the phone, but it's a requirement of my job. But fortunately, I'm the kind of person where I'll just give anything a go.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter to me if the boss's son doesn't understand what I'm saying, because he'll say to me, I don't understand what you're saying. And I'll just change what I was saying and say in a different manner, and he'll go, oh, I can see what you mean. But it's always something technical. For example, yesterday, the boss's son went to a isolated site which is off grid, and they have inverters, batteries, and he rang me up and said, look, normally I'm pretty good at this stuff, but I can't work out what the problem is. So I had to say to him over the phone from memory how to go into specific applications on the laptop, interface with an inverter, find out the charge current limits and all this stuff, and over the phone. And when I got off the phone, I thought, hang on, I've just done all that in French.
Well done, yeah.
And I was thinking, that's really good. It
was like
that. And then he goes, actually, there's something else wrong, but I don't know what it is. Can you come and look? So I drove out to took one of the vans and drove out to the site, and then I met the customer, and then we went through it all, and then I sorted it all out in the end. But I found it harder dealing with the customer when he was asking me how was your day, and just asking me general questions about stuff. I was looking at him going, I don't know what you're saying. But as soon as the boss's son said, can you explain to me the difference between state of charge, voltage level, charge current, requested charge current, I could explain all that in French, no problem. Technical stuff, but the social stuff, and it is that will trip you up, because it's so complicated, because they don't use the words that we're taught.
Yeah.
So hard.
Yeah. What you were saying, what you were saying just there about using different words, because there's certain words you don't know. So right from when I was a child, I had a really bad stammer, and there were certain words that if they started with a particular letter, I found it really difficult to start the word.
Yep.
So I used to read a lot when I was a kid, so I was able to build up quite a big vocabulary. So I was able to use different words that started with a different letter that were easier to say. So it's like having a thesaurus in your head.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. So because I've been doing that for so long, that's actually helped me a lot. When I'm wanting to speak French and there's a particular word that I don't know, so I can then choose another word that I do know that means roughly the same.
That's exactly what I do in French. But it takes a lot longer, because obviously I don't know half the word.
Yeah.
It's very, very difficult. And it also varies as well with the age of the person you're speaking to.
Right.
I don't know if you've noticed that or not.
Certainly when I speak to Christian, the farmer who lives down at number 1, I speak to him and I probably understand 20% of what he says.
Yeah.
If I'm lucky, and because of the context of what we're talking about, and all the rest of it, I can usually get by. But sometimes he will say something I have no idea what he's just said.
Yeah, but does that vary with the age of the person, do you think?
To be honest, I've not really had
fair enough. Yeah,
enough experience with various ages speaking, so I don't really know enough to comment on that, really.
So where we work, we've got a lady who works in who does all the admin and front front of office, basically, receptionist as well. But she does all sorts of stuff. But she's only about 24, 25.
Right, yeah, that's the one who comes in and kisses everyone, isn't it?
Yeah. So everyone else is male, and she's female. And at 8 o'clock every morning, she comes up. Everybody goes into the kitchen and has a coffee. But she has to go around everybody and give them a kiss. I don't know. It's just the way to do it. Anyway, but going back to, I find it easier speaking to a younger person because more of their vocabulary is anglicized. So they will know.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, probably because they're taking in British media more.
Probably not. I don't know if it's that. Probably more American.
I mean, yeah, when I say British, I mean English.
I see what you mean. Yeah. So they use more English words, English the language words, than the older generation, which I find easy, obviously. So, you find that the English language is appearing more and more. Like they used the other day, I was in the van, and it's like a proper works van. There's 3 of us sat at the front, and we're going to the restaurant for lunch, and they said we're going to take a shortcut, but they didn't use the French word for it, raccourci. They said we're going to take a shortcut.
Oh, so they actually use the word shortcut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, it's just maybe easier or sounds cooler, I don't know. And they use the word cool, and there's all sorts of other stuff they use, and there's more and more of that with the younger generation, so I find it easier to talk to them. They get what I'm saying a bit better. I don't know if you might see that.
They said that they was going to take a shortcut to the car park to buy a sandwich. That'd be English, wouldn't it? Just say that in English.
Yes, that's true. So I've got. I don't know if have we got time? I've got a couple of,
just over an hour.
Got a couple of tips.
Good, yeah.
On how to get on in a social situation that you haven't been in before.
Crack on.
And I'll give you a couple of examples. So at work, because it's like a tradesman's work, but you go to a restaurant. If you're working on site, you go to a restaurant and they have loads of these workers' restaurants. You've probably seen them. You've maybe been to a few. And they offer a menu of, I don't know, between 10 and 15 euros. And the menu is limited, but it's usually pretty good.
Yeah.
So the problem is it's always really busy. So you've got to be on your game on what you order, knowing what it is. There's no standing around. Can you explain to me what this is? Can you explain to me what that is? There'll be 4 choices on the board, maximum.
Would you have to book that, or would you just turn up?
No, we book it because there's usually 4 or 5 of us, so we book it.
Yeah.
If you're on your own, maybe, but all the restaurants I've been to the last week, if you hadn't booked, you wouldn't get in.
The reason I asked that is because not far from us, there's a hotel with a restaurant, and at lunchtime it's banged out. It's always like there's always cars and vans.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Out. And I just wondered whether you would have to book that.
Yes, I would.
Would you be able to book it online, or do you think normally, or would it be
not.
a phone call or pop in? Or
call, yeah.
They
don't have online stuff. So, but it's an easy one. It's an easy one to book because the time you're booking, they probably won't have anyone in there. You can spend the time on the phone, get what you need to say, and do it. And when you go there, it makes it easier if you've reserved. So you haven't got any stress, like with the French language saying, well, I'm sorry, we're full. You're going to have to wait a minute. How would you understand that really quickly when there's loads of other people? It's easier if you book because when you walk and you say, I've got a reservation, and they'll go, what's the name? And then everything's easy from there.
It's done, yeah.
It's actually easy. I know it sounds difficult to ring up and book, but that's your easy option. Turning up and trying to blag your way in for a table when it's really busy, it's so much harder. So
top tip for French, you actually take a reservation. So when you book a reservation, you actually take a reservation. Prendre une réservation. So you take a reservation. You don't want a reservation. You take one.
Yeah. And this is the way I would do it. When you ring the phone and they answer and say, oui, say so and so, you go, c'est pour une réservation pour midi.
Okay.
It means this is for a reservation for midday.
Yeah.
Straight away. And they will say, okay, or pour combien? For how many?
How many?
Sometimes more complicated now, but basically the next question will be for how many, and that's all they want to know.
See, that's your script, isn't it?
Exactly. But
That's
if
your
you get
script.
that set up, it's easier to do that on the phone when they're not stressed and you're not stressed
Of course.
than turning up at the restaurant and it's banged out. I mean, the last one I went to, they were turning people away.
Yeah. No, I believe it. Yeah, I believe it.
So when you get in there, if you're going with French people and you don't know the procedure, just make sure they go before you and just do exactly what they do.
Yeah.
And order what they order. If you don't understand what it is, just say, I'll have the same as them. La même chose pour moi.
La même chose.
And that's it. That's all you need to say. And that's all I do if I don't know what's going on. If there's something on the menu I can understand, I think, actually, I really like that. But every time I've done that, it's arrived and it's been way worse than what everyone else, because they know all this.
Yeah, of course. They know, don't
They know the best stuff.
Yeah.
So they've been here about 50 times. They know what to order. And I go, oh, I fancy the pork. And the pork gets here. And you're like looking at them.
It's all fat and horrible, yeah.
It's like, I don't know, whatever, steak and chips. And I'm like, all right, yeah, okay. And everyone orders the same thing.
Yeah.
And I'm the only one different.
Yeah.
Just order what they order. Do what they do. And you'll fit in really well.
Good. Top tip.
Top tip.
Yeah. So, one of those stupid questions that you've wondered what something is for ages.
Yeah.
And you think that it's too obvious, so you don't ask the question. This is one that. What is la routière? So you see restaurants with routière outside.
So that is like a restaurant. As far as I'm aware, please don't put in the comment that I don't know what I'm talking about. It's a restaurant for truck drivers.
Right.
Normally.
Yeah. So
people spend the time on the road.
Yeah. That would probably be good food, I would imagine.
It's the same or very similar to the workman's restaurants I've just talked about.
Yeah.
I've been to both, and there's nothing between them, and everything's the same as that. It's just set up for people with lorries normally, and there's big car parking spaces and that.
Yeah. Good. All right. Well, time's whizzed by again.
I honestly can't.
Ridiculous.
Can't believe that's been an hour now. Already.
All right. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, Andy?
There's so much we could talk about. It's one of them subjects that just goes on and on.
Yeah.
Or I go on and on. One of the two. I can't remember.
I'll get the right Tintin book next time.
Yes, probably. Some top tips there, though, for learning French, I guess.
Oh.
Go on.
Remembered. So, for next week, what we'd like to do is to do a Q&A. So, if you can give your questions on any subject you like. It doesn't even have to relate to France, to be honest.
No, it doesn't. No. Anything you want to know.
Anything you like. So, questions in the comments below, and we will endeavour to answer as best we can. But yeah, questions. And as many questions as you like.
It can also relate to our own channel. So if there's something you see on my channel or Colin's channel, something we've done with a third party, if you drop it in the comments, we'll contact them, ask them the question, and give you the answer. So, for example, if you wanted to speak to Glenn or ask a question from Glenn, who we had on the other day, top episode that, by the way.
Yeah, it's good.
Then we can contact them on your behalf, ask the question, and then we'll give you the answer. So anything you can think of that we can possibly answer for you, let us know.
Brilliant. All right, so get busy with your fingers, getting those questions into the comments, and hopefully we'll do it next week. If we have enough questions, we'll do it next week. If not, then we'll shame you, and we'll do it the week after.
The only problem is nobody's tuning in this far down the episode, so we should have done this.
The hardcore. I should have done this at the beginning, shouldn't I?
Yeah. Hello, Mum.
Ask your mum.
Mum, you've got the bad news. You've got to take out 20 new YouTube fake accounts and put these questions on.
Oh dear.
Okay.
Anyway, all right. So we'll wrap it up. So thank you so much for watching. Very much appreciated. And if you got this far, well done, you.
Yeah.
Gold star and a big tick. Good job. So if you'd like to give the video a thumbs up, that'd be great. Press the notification bell so that you know when there's new content, and maybe share it on your social media, and maybe think about subscribing if you're not subscribed already. And all that leaves to say is goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from him.
Goodbye.